I know. All right, got my big girl behavior on.
We are recording, and I have to make sure that we're recording to the cloud. I don't see that. I guess we are. So, yeah, we are live, and just waiting on Mr. Blaschke.
Yeah. I don't see him in attendees. I was looking to see.
I'm just checking. Dave's here, which is great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thanks,
All right,
Dave.
so I guess we'll wait just one.
There he is.
Okay, it's Jim.
Great. Hi, Jim.
Hey guys, sorry to be coming late.
Jim,
All right, thanks, Jim.
no worries. All right,
Appreciate you being
so
here.
as I mentioned to the rest of the gang before you got here, Jim, we have to be off by about 6:45 because Conservation Commission has the room at 7.
Okay.
So I promised Jay Montego that we would be speedy. So I'm gonna call, in the absence, as you know, of our chair tonight, I'm going to do my best to sort of step forward and run the meeting. So I will call us to order at 6:04 p.m. on February 17th. And note that present are a quorum with Rebecca Deans-Rowe, Kate Battles, Annie Pfaff, Jim Blaschke, and myself, with our intrepid chair, Michael Wyson, not here tonight, unfortunately. First item on the agenda, we have to approve minutes from previous meetings, and that would be first up is January 13th. And that's gone out, and Dave did an excellent job with that. So does anybody have any changes that need to be made on this?
Nope.
No. I just got one, and I know Dave's with us, so I would just suggest it's an easy thing maybe to run the checker through it one more time, because I noticed there's some words, it might have been the way it came through, that are kind of like fused, like they just need a space between them, you know, like the words kind of run together. And that would, it all, when it comes up on my word thing, it flags it really easy. So it's fine and just drop in some spaces between some of the words where it's like, the door is just the door, like all.
Yeah. I noticed that too, and I thought it was maybe just my phone that I was.
Yeah, I think it might have just, I don't know, you know, sometimes it's kind of things creep in, the files get opened or changed, and so that's easy to fix. And then I just had one other thing is on page 3, there's a boldface header, and I would ask our intrepid recording secretary to remove the word debacle from there, because it's an editorial that's not really necessary. It's something, an update on St. Mark's Park, and I would just strike that one strikeout. If Dave's okay with taking care of that, I'm fine. Everyone else is good?
Yep.
Then with 80 minutes, do I have a motion to approve January 13th minutes?
A motion as amended.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. It's a roll call vote then. Kate Battles.
Aye.
Jim Blaschke.
Aye.
Rebecca Deans-Rowe.
Aye.
Annie Pfaff.
Yes.
Kevin Miller says aye. And enjoys talking about himself in the third person. I'm gonna do it as many times as I can tonight. The other one we've got is the February 7th minutes, and that was the brief meeting to run over the letter that we sent out to St. Mark's regarding the park. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes as well?
Yes.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I
Right.
won't be
Right,
voting.
right. That was very brief and concise, a bit of work by Dave, which we all appreciate. Everyone okay with those?
Yep.
Again, entertain a motion to approve those minutes from
So
February
moved.
7th.
Oh, sorry. So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. So roll call vote. Kate Battles,
Aye.
Jim Blaschke,
Aye.
Rebecca Deans-Rowe,
What do I say?
Stain.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Yeah.
Annie Pfaff,
Yes.
and Kevin Miller again says aye. So that's 4-0-1 on those minutes. So those are both approved. The next item in the main event tonight is the review of the application for the demolition permit for 42 Main. And I want to check the just attendees a moment. I think I see Diane here, and I think that's Diane, maybe Diane Byrne of Faith School, who's the submitted the application. We'll check in a moment. But this is a fairly simple process tonight, because at the stage that we're at in the process under the demolition delay bylaw, right now it's simply, and I'm saying this to lay this out for people who may watch the YouTube recording later and want to understand what's going on. It's a pretty straightforward process that the applicant submits the application to the building inspector. They review it to make sure it's complete. And then it is forwarded along to the historical commission. And at which point we have 10 days from receipt of the application to make a determination whether or not the building, the property is architecturally and or historically significant. If we do so, then that triggers the clock on a full hearing, a public hearing. So where we're at right now is simply in this very early stage of making a simple determination of whether or not the subject property is architecturally and or historically significant. We received this material. I'm trying to look down where it was, my notes on this. I'm sorry, on Friday, February 4th. So today is the 9th business day in the 10-day window we have to act on it. And I have assured the building inspector that I'll forward our answer forthwith. I'm going to do it right after the call tonight and double check with her tomorrow to make sure that she's received it. And then depending on what we decide tonight, that would or would not then initiate the need for a full hearing within 45 days. The material has been sent out to the commission, and that was the application, the demolition permit application. I also, since I was sending this material out, sent out, obviously without comment, information from the Macris database, which gives some background on this property. It does appear in the Macris database, again, for people who aren't familiar with it, is the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System. This is administered at a state level, and what it does is sort of inventory the state's historic assets, as well as the National Register of Historic Places information, documentation, applications, and so on. So it's for people who are interested in this kind of stuff, it's an unbelievably valuable resource. I started using it way before I got mobbed up with historical commission, because when I moved to town, I was running around taking photos of old buildings that I was sort of smitten with right and left, and trying to figure out, what they were and why they were there and who lived in them, and what was important about them. And that's where I would go all the time. So the Macris information, there is an entry on the subject house at 42 Main, which is known historically as either the George Jennison House, the Artemis Moore House, or more colloquially and recently, the Dr. T.P. Stone House. Dr. Stone apparently had a long time office in the eastern end, or the eastern wing of the house. And prior to that was a barber shop. So there's a lot of information available on this property. And I have no doubt that my hardworking colleagues here read it all quite thoroughly. So what I'd like to do is go around, first of all, and just hear everyone out and what your impressions are of this property, and if whether or not you find it historically and or architecturally significant, and what the feeling is about it, and if our guest, I believe from Fay, would like to have a word, I'd certainly be welcome to hear that. I will say again that the point of this right now is a fairly simple process, and that a much more extensive and thorough hearing, which would include hopefully a presentation from representatives of Fay School, would ensue during the public hearing, which would, again, depending on what we decide now, would happen within 45 days. So with that, Kate, would you want to make any comments about this?
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Based on, so I read through all the information provided. Thank you so much for sharing that. Based on the year constructed, the fact that it is now a property that is part of the National Historic District that we were just awarded, I believe it's incumbent upon us to say that it is historically significant. Like I said, sort of most strictly based on the date that it was built, certainly the history of it within the town, but predominantly the date. And then I think it's just important to note that it is part of our historic district. That's all.
Great. Rebecca?
I agree with everything Kate said. It's now on the National Register by being part of that district. So it's by virtue of that historically significant. The Greek Revival style is not that common in town. It's nice to have, a representation of that, plus the location on Main Street and the history. I think it's clearly historically significant.
Jim?
Likewise, it's of a style, location, history, its usage, even independent of the historic district designation, that I think is significant all by itself, but that just adds to the strengthening of that position, in my view.
Annie?
Yep, I agree with what others here have said. What particularly struck me in the background paperwork that you sent, a lot of the narrative that was on the Macris write-up, talking about the architectural description, the historical narrative, and then the National Register of Historic Places criteria statement form. There's I'm not going to kind of reread what's already there, but there's so much, good information that supports, this property being architecturally and historically significant to the town of Southborough for a number of reasons. And I would absolutely support our commission identifying it as such for the purpose of this hearing.
Okay, Diane, I don't know if you're the Diane Byrne of Fay School, and if you'd like to speak, maybe you could raise your hand if you're interested in talking. Okay, great. Hang on, and let me try to. Hi, Diane. If you just unmute, you could. Hi, welcome, and thank you for coming.
Sure.
Yeah, we'd just love to hear if you have any thoughts. As I said, I'm sure you understand the process and the bylaw, that this is the very early stage to determine whether or not we should even go forward to a full hearing. And so, should we decide to go forward with a hearing, we would allow you all the time in the world to sort of make a case. But I just want, if you had any preliminary thoughts, we'd love to hear them.
Sure. Excuse me, I wasn't really prepared to speak, but I appreciate the time that the committee is taking to review our application. And please understand that we have done a tremendous amount of work to look into all of our different options that we have for this property, and would really like to have a different resolution to it, but have found that this is really the only viable option. So we'll be prepared to speak further should you move forward. But I just wanted to let you know that this was not a decision that we took very lightly. And we've done, as I said, several years worth of work and analysis to try and figure out the best use and how to preserve the property. And we really have come to the determination that there's not a whole lot that we can really do with it, given the state of disrepair that it's in, which is substantial.
Diane, this is Jim. Not to get a jump start on the hearing, but in general, is it important that they keep this property under your ownership? Or, you know, one of the aspects of the demolition delay is to find a suitable buyer who is willing to invest in it and bring it up to snuff. Is they open to that sort of a game plan as a way to avoid the demolition part?
Well, I think that we're open to a conversation about any of the options, really. You know, as I said, we have looked at our own ability to renovate or to restore. And so we certainly would welcome the commission coming and taking a look at the property and working in partnership, or trying to come up with a resolution that would suit the town as well as the school.
Yeah, I guess I was asking, are you bonded to the idea of keeping the property, or would you be, if there was an appropriate purchaser at the right price who was willing to invest, would you be willing to part with it?
We haven't really had that conversation, to be honest. But I think that, you know, and I think I can speak on behalf of our Board of Trustees and Rob Gustafson. We would love to be able to preserve the property. So if there's somebody who would be interested in having a conversation about how we could do that together or separately, I think we'd certainly be open to any conversation about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have questions for Diane while we have her? No? Great. Well, thank you, Diane. I really appreciate you coming and
Sure.
you know, the continued dialogue.
Sure. And as I said, we'd be happy to set a time aside to bring any member or the entire commission over and take a look at the property.
I would certainly support that. And I hope we'll be in touch on that point.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Look
so
forward
much.
to it. Sure.
I would have a couple comments. You know, the macro stuff is very clear. You know, this building actually has, this is one of the buildings that I was rather smitten with right from moving into town. And it's quite prominent for people who may watch this recording later. You know, it's directly opposite the townhouse and the Pilgrim Church. And, you know, it's visible from the old burial ground, from the town green. I took a photo of it over the weekend that I sent out to the commission just to familiarize people with what we were going to be discussing tonight. And it was taken from standing in the middle of the town green, looking across Main Street. So it is an extremely prominent house. And it's quite charming. It has a rather fanciful plaque over the front door that I believe says 1750. That is a bit of fancy because the building it clearly dates from the middle of the 19th century, and the Macris data has it as circa 1845.
Kevin, not to interrupt, but I saw on the other attachment you sent from the assessor's database, it is recorded as 1750 as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I thought that inconsistency was peculiar with all of the information.
And that would be worth a little bit of research down the road to see what the lore, you know, is, or what was there something even before that? Quite possible. I don't know the answer to that particular point, but I will say from the Macris information, I mean, it is clearly when you walk by and look at it now, you know, it hasn't, you know, it's like any old wood house. If not much is done to it for a while, you know, returns, gutters, things rot, you know, it needs some love. I'm a little, you know, puzzled how the building is thought to be structurally and architecturally in poor condition. That's per the application. Having survived, 100 and what would that be? About 77 years prior to now. So, it needs a little love, quite clearly, but it's a survivor and it's been around an awful long time. It does, it's had this history also, which I think sparks part of our interest in the idea of adaptive reuse, that it does have history as a commercial enterprise, a longtime town barber shop prior to it becoming the office of Dr. Stone. And boy, it does sort of scream antique store or coffee shop or what have you. There is significant documentation about the Greek Revival style in the Macris data and its significance. And the concluding remarks, I will simply say, to kind of speed this along and not take up a lot of people's time, is that the preservation consultants that did the report, Forbes and Schuler, and I looked up there, and I unfortunately forget their first names, but the two preservation consultants that did this work to compile the information, conclude that the house is eligible for the National Register as a contributing property in a district encompassing the historic, residential, and institutional meeting house center of the town. Under criterion A, and that is a reference, by the way, to the National Register criteria for evaluation. And we don't need to get into the weeds on that, but under that one classification, it's significant as an early residence on property developed opposite the meeting house and common in the middle years of the 19th century. In spite of many additions and a few alterations, it meets criterion C as an example of vernacular house of the Greek Revival period, indicative of the work of a local master carpenters. The property retains integrity of location, design, materials, workmanship, feeling, setting, and association. That report was done in 2000, so 22 years ago. But it's funny, the photograph that was taken at the time, in support of this initial documentation, does not differ materially from the photo I took 3 days ago. It is a house that has a fascinating history and has had some development and change and alteration, and I have no doubt that it needs a little love. But my own opinion is that I would be highly reluctant. This is a premier location in the center of town, and examples of this kind of architectural style are fast disappearing. And so it seems to me that we would be well justified in doing the right thing by the town, by the building, and I hope it's perceived by Fay School, the applicant, to continue the work investigating what we might do and how we might help find a way to have this building survive into another century. So I think at this point we have to decide. We should entertain a motion to deem the building architecturally and or historically significant, and if so, again, that would trigger the clock for a full hearing. Anyone want to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, having heard that, then let's take a roll call vote. And again, this is to make a determination by the Historical Commission that the property at 42 Main Street is architecturally and or historically significant, and then to trigger the clock for a full hearing on the matter. Kate Battles.
Aye.
Jim Blaschke.
Aye.
Becca Deans Rowe.
Aye.
Annie Pfaff.
Yes.
And Miller votes aye as well. So that's 5-0. Diane, I'm going to address the commission first. I have looked at the calendar on this matter. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is March 17th. However, the meeting after that of April 12th is 37 business days. We have 45 business days. They're not calendar days, they're business days. April 12th is day 37 by my count. And I will go out on a limb right now and suggest that that is better suited to what we're doing, because it gives both the applicant more time to consider their position and to, bring together whatever materials they might need to pursue their case at a hearing. And it gives us also more time to gather our own thoughts and make sure that we're fully prepared for this matter. So I don't think necessarily we have to decide that at this moment, but I just wanted to put it on the table that I think, Diane, in all likelihood, we're more likely, is that fair to say that we're more likely to go forward in April and use the time that we have to make sure that we've looked at the issue fully rather than rush in the next 19 days, since we do have by virtue of the bylaw 45. Is there some consensus on that?
I think so, but I also believe that our chair has holiday plans for that period of April, so.
Well then, yeah, when we'll definitely have to obviously consult with the chair, but that meeting is scheduled right now in April unless we change it. So Diane, we will be in touch in a timely way to let you know. And obviously the hearing is publicized and promoted. And I think given the importance and the significance of this house and its location, right in the heart of downtown, right opposite the townhouse and the town green and the old burial ground, that I very much want to encourage the public, that's what these hearings are for, to acquaint themselves with the case, with the property, the matter at hand, and to show up. And that'll give us, again, time to get the word out in an appropriate way, that people have a chance to offer their opinions on which way we should go with this property. So I think we can, Diane, did you have any, I just wanted to give you a chance for a last word if you had anything else.
No, I just wanted to thank you for your time this evening and for reviewing our application, and look forward to working with you on this.
Great. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, all right, so let's move on then. Chair's report, and we would call it the vice chair's report tonight. And there's just one thing that, I happen to be as a spectator on the ARPA call that was sometime late last week. If it's Tuesday, it must be planning kind of thing. I get a little lost because I tend to watch a lot of these meetings. But the ARPA committee is soliciting right now, basically different boards and committees kind of wish list, to put it inelegantly. And it seems to me that we have one very significant one. I spent a little bit of time over the last week looking up the questioning. We have this brand new downtown Southborough National Register Historic District, long fought for, long awaited, this wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's one of these deals where it's like, like Instagram, if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen kind of thing. Well, we've got a historic district, and if we don't mark it, no one's going to know about it. So we need those real nice signs, and we need a bunch of them, because you enter the district from Main both directions. You enter the district up Middle Road. You enter the district up 30. Marlboro Corderville Road. You enter the district coming down Lattisquama. That's a bunch of signs. And so I spent a little time looking up what those signs cost, and
yeah,
they ain't cheap.
no.
And, you know, like bronze ones, you want them to last, right? You know, the real good, the nice ones.
Yeah. I looked them up too.
Yeah, like
Is there a
thousands.
process through MHC to provide those or anything? We have to come up with the funding for it? Is
Well,
that-
So I know for your personal houses, because that's why I was looking, because I was like, boom, let's get one. Yeah, no, it's not in the budget right now. I was gonna ask you, Rebecca, if you knew, did they like give us like one or two, or?
You know, I don't know. I think we need to look into that.
Yeah, I wondered too if we got any for the streets, not individual properties, but I thought
Sure.
maybe you got some for the streets, but we might not.
well, that needs to be investigated, and I have a feeling they're going to tell us we're on our own and we got to
think
come
so
up
too.
with money. And so I was, you know, would like to put this on folks' radar, and I, you know, maybe even recruit somebody to kind of look into the matter. And because basically, I'll boil this down because I want to be quick. Is I actually rang into that call finally because they were talking about sending out emails soliciting, you know, people's wants, and we never got it. So I kind of spoke up and said, well, just FYI, historical never got, you know, this thing you're talking about. And they were, you know, it's John Woods, the acting chair over there, and he was very, very kind about it and said, oh, wow, thanks. And thanks for letting us know, and we'll resend. And they did this week. So we received the ask, and actually and I was alarmed at the time because the deadline was the 15th, being 2 days ago, but they've extended it now to the 28th in light of the fact that there was a little bit of a snafu, I guess, with some of the emails going out. So they're hardworking and doing great work over there, but let's get in our bid.
Absolutely.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, this is something that the town could really like. This is a meaningful thing, you know, a point of pride for the whole town, that you would drive into the center of Southborough from different routes and directions and see this thing. Well, wow, we're on the map, you know. So to me, personally, short of sidewalks and some tax relief, the signs are very high on my list, you know. And so I'd like to think that feeling would be shared. So I won't put anybody on the spot right now, but if you would think about if anybody's got a little time to research these, just to figure out what we need and how much, so we could send them, the ARPA folks, a little bit of note. They don't decide, of course. It's ultimately the the select board that decides this stuff, but it needs to be done.
Before we go there, can I just ask a question? So
Yeah.
I've heard of the ARPA committee, and like I kind of like vaguely understand, like, you know, it's additional funding that we could have, but can you kind of explain in better detail, like, what are the funds supposed to be for? Like, how does this tie into like an acceptable use of potential funds? Just because I don't really understand.
Well, this is, yeah, a lot of people don't even know what the acronym is. It's American Rescue Plan Act, by the way. If you knew that, you're ahead of 99% of the population, but
I only know from minutes. Yeah.
that's what they're discussing in their meetings, how, and, you know, they're going to make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. And, you know, there's a lot of money involved. I believe it's $3 million.
Yeah, 3.1 million, I believe, is what the town is getting.
Right. And so, you know, there's a lot that can be done with that. And they're talking still in some very broad conceptual ways. But what they're doing right now is putting together on a kind of Excel spreadsheet a list of everybody's wants. And there has to be some determination of whether that is actually, because there are some limits in the ARPA funds. And I watched as a spectator and appreciate what they're doing, but I'm no expert on it. So the only thing, you know, my attitude about this is to put our wish list in front of them and then have them say no, you know.
May I chime in for a second, Kevin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Annie, just because I've just taken some notes on all of this, the only things really that are that the monies can't be used for are payroll, benefits, and debt, town debt. So they are encouraging, certainly I know from a bunch of the different committees, people are looking for prioritizing big ticket things like, wastewater along Route 9 or sidewalks and connectivity, but obviously 3.1 doesn't cover those kinds of products. More would sort of get like feasibility studies done or things like that. So a lot of committees have thought that it actually might be a really beneficial use of funds to find or to prioritize a couple of specific to your committee, smaller asks, because then you really get something. And
Yeah.
the monies have to be spent, I believe, by 2026.
Okay.
So they do kind of want even some very tangible asks, like
Oh, that's
signage,
great. Okay.
Yeah,
I-
sorry
I-
to chime in, Kevin. I hope that was okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that context is really helpful. Thank you.
It's better than I could have said it. And I just think that the signage is like a real legit ask, like it would enhance the town. And even, I would think, folks like the EDC would be supportive of this because it helps put the downtown on the map. So the last thing is we have this any other business that may legally come before the commission. Well, here's something that I think we cannot really discuss and opine on because it wasn't on the agenda, but I want to bring to everyone's attention that last night, the St. Mark's Park Working Group met for the first time. That is the group, brought together by the select board to make recommendations on what's going to happen in that St. Mark's Triangle. And I have to tell you that it was, I was present as an observer, just watching in the audience, although I was called upon. And so I did speak to them briefly. And I have to tell you that it was an immensely encouraging watch on my part. And I would really strongly urge you all to look it up on YouTube and to watch that meeting because it was extraordinary. It was extraordinarily frank and forthright in terms of the discussion, ranging. What anybody who watches that meeting will discover is that this town has some really smart people with a lot of character and integrity. It was, I'm really sound like I'm selling it, but I can't oversell it. It was legitimately moving to me to see the embrace of the challenge. And they've got a big challenge in front of them. The letter that we approved in our meeting of February 7th, we of course CC'd to the select board and to the St. Mark's Park Working Group. And at the time, the only emails I had, because they hadn't been seated, didn't have town addresses, I had Mr. Dennington's email and Ms. Landry, Marguerite Landry's email address, because they're both, of course, as you know, Marguerite is the chairman of the Library Board of Trustees and Andrew Dennington's on the select board. I sent them both a copy. Well, they shared it, and I thanked them for it with the rest of their working group. And so they had all read it. And I can tell you that it is widely, broadly, and from my perception, enthusiastically embraced. And they are taking the matter very, very seriously, to the degree that they decided to invite a representative from St. Mark's to their next meeting to discuss it and to talk about it. So they are taking our concerns, as I said, very, very seriously. There was a quite considerable sort of passion expressed on the subject and ancillary topics. I mean, we try to confine ourselves strictly to the matter of the unmarked burials, so that we have a sort of clear path and we're not cluttering things up with other matters. They were a little bit more expansive in their views on it, but I can tell you that they take the matter seriously. I was immensely impressed by all of them, and certainly not least the St. James Nichols Worley, who's the St. Mark's student, who's on that working group. He's kind of magnificent. So they were just so, I can't say enough. They were just wonderful. They're engaged. They're taking this seriously, and they are committed to real progress. And I don't know what our next step would be on this, but I was glad to speak to them. I basically reiterated what they already knew, was that we have concerns. Those concerns were based on the opinions and the expertise of the head of the Massachusetts Historical Commission and a state archaeologist. She believes that there's cause for concern and need to investigate, and that we were relaying those concerns to the owner of the property in the hope that they would take action. And that I further, said that we are committed as a commission in a spirit, not of obstruction, but of just complete cooperation to try to make the best of what we've got and to get a good resolution that makes everybody happy. That we would work with them and help them in any way that we could. And that's where I left it. I just wanted you folks to know what's there and really urge you to go watch that meeting. And perhaps we can put it on the agenda the next time we meet and just kind of update and discuss. So that's all I've got. And I know we have to get off, and we have public comments scheduled, and I see that in our gallery, there is only our intrepid recording secretary and my wife. And I know she doesn't want to say anything, so we may be able to bypass, unless there's anyone public comment. Dave, Marcy, I didn't think so.
Kevin, can I make one more quick comment about the
Yeah.
signs? I'll be really quick. I think in addition to
Sure.
the ones that are marked the coming into town, we should consider something for the old burial ground and the other major assets like the townhouse and the library.
Right.
Love that idea.
Yeah. So I would, if
Yes.
anybody
I will look.
has time to look into, would you just reach out to me and let
Sure.
me know, because we'll have to get this together. And I don't think that's any open meeting problem. It's just to look stuff up and send me the results kind of thing, and we'll get it going. I know we got to log off because the Conservation Commission people are going to be coming. So I feel like I could have run this meeting in 20 minutes if I were better at it. So my apologies.
You did great.
You did great.
Wonderful.
Kevin, one quick
Yes.
question to clarify. So thank you for the readout on what happened with that Parks group. What I'm trying to consider is the degree of binding, how binding their recommendations would be. I know they're approved or sanctioned by the BOS, but they're still a recommendation panel, correct?
That is correct. They really, their power is purely, I think, in the, again, frank, honest, forthright, full of integrity investigation and airing of what their concerns are. And I have so much respect. It's very inspiring. It makes me want to do better, so,
Good to hear. Thank you.
kudos to them. And I just think the conversation, this kind of sunshine that's brought down on it, and everybody can talk about it and come to a good, hopefully make progress, is really going to help. So, and I would like to, again, extend the invitation to them that if we can help with information or advice or counsel or discussion, let's do it, and let's work together. They're a great group, and I have a lot of respect for everybody concerned. So again, hopefully, fully.
Dave has his hand up, I think.
Oh, sure. Hi, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
You're muted, Dave.
Can you unmute?
There he is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, the spelling of Diane at Faith School, her last name.
Byrne.
Thank you.
Byrne. Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks for all the good work. All right, I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All right, my last roll call. Kate Battles,
Aye.
Jim Blaschke,
aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Annie Pfaff.
Yes.
Miller says aye. We look forward to the return of our intrepid chair at our next meeting. And with that, I would say that we're done, right?
Yeah.
Adjourned. Good
Night,
night,
everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, guys. Good to see you
Thank
all.
you.
Good to see you.
Good night.
Good weekend.
Bye.